back to the channel. It's Stasia. We're in the month of December, guys, and this is my month. I love December and the energy of shadow work that it represents, actually all the way from, that Samhain, Day of the Dead point, the initial death gates through the solstice, which is my birthday. That's the period of time that I am most intimately connected with, which is internal deep diving shadow work stuff. So this month for our channel, I wanted to do two things. I wanted to talk shadow work stuff and do some shadow work things, maybe some practices that help with that. And then I also mentioned going on a rune journey. So this is one of my bag of runes. So we will probably go into order rather than just bounce around. Although that can be a fun way to learn too. When I was first learning runes, all my cards became quiet. They wouldn't talk to me. And it was, I'd worked with oracle cards for over 15 years, and I decided I want to work with runes, and my cards were like, zzz. And so I just did begin to pull a rune every day and then look it up and sit with it and see how that was playing out with the day. So that is one way to do it. Another way is to actually go through the series, which I'll probably do with you like I did with the tarot. And if you missed that, you can find that playlist on this channel of the tarot, major arcana of the tarot. So we'll begin that. We had a new moon in Sagittarius yesterday. So I did mention that in yesterday's video briefly. So some new things for me. I'm helping out on Midnight Fluorite IG live sales on Instagram, where I'm doing some tarot there each week, Friday and Saturday, and maybe some other shows in the middle of the week. But there's also live crystal sales, which I love crystals. I've actually done a lot with stones over my life, but I haven't done too much the last few years, so I'm happy to be back working with the stones. So I'll be talking about some of their healing properties and uses for them over on that page. If you want to go to Instagram, if you're on there, Midnight Fluorite, which is FLUO, kind of confusing sometimes, Midnight Fluorite IG live sales. So if you go there, you can find me, or you can find me at Bliss in the House, and I usually do a little plug now for the lives. But so let's get into a little shadow work today. So if you have been following me, if you haven't, it's fine, but if you have, I speak of the gateways to the solstice, these days between All Souls Day at the beginning of November, that midway point between equinox and solstice. It is like an opening toward this deep dive. And and the winter solstice, even though it's the first day of winter in the northern hemisphere, first day of summer in the south, it is the day in the north where it's the longest night, right? It's the darkest that it's going to get, and then it begins to get lighter after that. So we're in this decline, this reduction of darkness during this time. And so I call those death gates because they're like times of shedding, times of letting old stuff go. And this is where we get into the shadow components. It's funny, the sun is shining through while I'm saying this, and it's on its descent. It's probably going to get dark while we're talking. I look at the clock, but the clock is not right in this room. So whenever I look at it, it's always the same time. But I spoke about this in yesterday's video, that Pluto moving into Aquarius, as it has, and it will remain for about 20 years now. Pluto is the underworld. It is signifying death and transformation. It's the ruler of Scorpio, the 8th house, all about death and transformation. And navigating the shadow, navigating the depths, the inner emotional depths. Scorpio is a water sign. It's inner depths. It's deep diving. It's the taboo. It's the, shadow work falls in that. It will also fall in like a Piscean realm too. These are your mystical, spiritual signs. But so Pluto, this ruler, this god of death, if you will, Hades, is on a journey through Aquarius. Aquarius, our humanness, our uniqueness, our connection to each other, our nervous system, right? So we will be seeing, and I predict a lot of stuff where trauma, which has been stored in the nervous system, is going to have the opportunity during this time to heal. That's an amazingly huge thing. And I see that with my Chiron in the 11th house, is the healing of all things Aquarius, all things humanity, right? Chiron's the wounded healer. So that is something that I have navigated in my life, is going into deep wounding and then doing repair on my own nervous system through yoga, through meditation, through herbs, through all the things that I use as tools. Those are the things that got me through the hard stuff, that brought me out of, my fight or flight, my depression, my struggles with the darkness, if you will, the dark things in my life, the most difficult things, the most traumatic things for me. And we all have them. And it's not like a comparison story of, whose traumas are worse, but it is about the repair of our collective nervous system. And so just to plug that mushrooms, that like the lion's mane and the reishi and the different medicinal mushrooms are really healing for the nervous system, because they are like the nervous system of the planet. Their mycelium reaches out and connects all the trees, right, and all of nature, and sends these impulses speaking back and forth within the forest and to nature about what's going on. And so the mushroom genre, it really speaks to the nervous system of humans. So I think that's a cool, very nourishing thing to be using during this time. But yeah, so we're navigating these sorts of shadow realms in this Pluto Aquarius time. And at this time in particular, from this new moon Sagittarius going on our way toward the solstice, this is kind of like the last little chunk of deep diving. Like, what are we going to gnaw on and bring up and serve to ourselves for the next 9 months or so, right? Until we again start our descent into the underworld like we are now. This is when we're going within. This is when we get the opportunity, if we align with nature, to go within to our deep places, find the hurts, find the wounds, find the imbalanced things, shed the things we can, as I like to call these death gates. We do have the assistance of less and less light to symbolize peeling off layers, right? So we're finding the wounds, we're finding the things that we then get to seed for transformation in our being, in our nervous system, in the collective, conglomerate that we are, which you could also say Aquarius represents, because it is connection, it's interconnection. Why the nervous system is implicated, because it's all the connecting points within us. So it's all the pressure points. It's the way the organs communicate with each other through this vast network. So we get an opportunity to decide what needs rewiring, what we're ready to release, and what we can work on in this, spring, this energy that's springing forth, which we'll talk about in the rune series. But the Ing rune is the rune of seeding for new development, right? And it's associated with the spring, why it's called Ing. So we have this passage from the solstice to the equinox again, between December 21st and March 21st, 22nd. This is the beginning of the ascent toward what's going to come out in the world. So right now we're going down in deep. Solstice, we start to move back out with that, and we begin to find how that can start to flow into our external world, maybe through and we look at New Year's, right? Like our New Year's resolution, but there is an energy of how can I implement this? How can I begin to make positive change with what I've found in the hibernation period, in the death period, the place where I've come to deep within. That's what the winter, the December energy is to me, and that's what I see in nature too, that nature is shedding and nature is pulling in and covering with frost and starting to go into a hibernation where the seeds that are underground, they are kept and they won't spring again till spring, right? There's something of a holding pattern, and the ones that are strong will remain and the ones that are weak will die. And this is where also we can do this in ourselves. There are leftover seeds, if you will, from our previous reality, our life before now, and we can decide if we want, if those are, actually we don't totally decide, but we can co-decide with life if we're going to nourish those things or if they're exhausted, and if we're ready to let them go and let them be part of the resurrection process, like the resurgence. They can lend their energy, if you will, and energy is never created or destroyed, right? It's just changing forms. So if we had all this energy going towards certain things that were our traumas, this is the time where we can redirect that energy. We can honor it. And that's, shadow work is really about finding the places in us that were difficult, that are traumatic or hard, that we haven't really wanted to look at or face, that are the most confronting. That's why they're the shadow. They're what's, not in the light. They're behind us. We're kind of pushing them back, but at this time they're wanting to be seen. They're wanting their attention. So shadow work is finding those and finding the benefits of them, finding why they're purposeful in your evolutionary process. So if it's a deep wound, say of abandonment, we look at what that abandonment does for us. How does it cause something good in me? What is its role in my evolution? Did that cause me to be more self-sufficient? Did that cause me to start to work on myself more? Did that cause me a sense of inner strength? Did I start to look to myself? All the reasons why that particular happening might be for you, might be something you invoked in a way, a necessary component in refining of the person. So when we see these things and we can find that, and we can find some grace to say, okay, I can see the purpose in these things. Then the second part of the shadow work is we choose to love that experience. And at first that's really difficult because usually there are things we don't love and even hate the most. But as we begin the journey of shadow work, it's like, can I love that about me too? Can I love me in deep abandonment, in deep pain, in deep sorrow? Can I also love that me? And that's usually where the disconnect is, because in those painful moments, we don't love it, we hate it, and therefore we don't love ourselves in those moments. We even come to despise ourselves on some level for having that experience, almost like we think it's life saying that we're not worthy. And that's something I think everyone experiences in these deep traumatic moments, is we have a disconnect with ourselves. And we separate that part of ourselves, and it actually becomes like a fragment or a shattered piece. And so shadow work, very close to soul retrieval work, is we're going and we're looking for those pieces that are in the shadow, that are left behind, parts of us, because they're attached to a trauma. So we detach them from what we think is wholeness. Like, I'm whole as long as I don't have that part, as long as I don't have this trauma or this memory. So in shadow work, we travel back into those places, and right now is a beautiful time to do this work. It's very supportive in this darker time, especially in the Northern Hemisphere. So when we find those things, and if you need assistance, this is what I love to do. I love to support this process. I've done this so much in myself and found it is so transformative to do this. It completely changes everything, everything. You know, all the things that I thought I hated about what happened to me in my life, as I've gone back and found how they were perfect for me, that I was the master creator of this reality so that I could become who I am becoming. And as I wove that story together for myself, all these things that led up to it became my choice. The story I laid out for myself to get to the mastery that I'm headed for. And I challenge you that maybe that's also true for you. And maybe just try, if you haven't tried any of shadow work, to do some of this, finding those places that you don't like, those moments. Think of moments. Look at how they're good for you, how they helped your evolution. What did they invoke in you that is positive? And if you need help with that, I can help you with that. And then we love those parts of ourselves, those us experiencing those moments. And not just in lip service, like, okay, I love that me, but literally like reaching into your heart and feeling, I love that part of me too. And I usually find you have to say that many times until you really feel it and you actually feel an emotion begin to move in you. You might tear up or something, sweat, have a release of some kind in the body. That usually is an indicator, okay, you really did make that shift. You really found and were able to give love to that part that was disparate, right? It was desperate actually, but not a part, disparted from you. And as you love it, it's like you bring it back into the fold. Bring it back into the fold as the good shepherd. You're calling in all the parts of you. The sacrificial lambs, if you will. There's a lot of iconology in this work. And as you do that, you will start to feel this sense of more of yourself available to you. Because all those pieces that are unintegrated, that haven't been loved, they are taking energy. They're actually like holes that are pouring out your energy in all these different directions. And so as we love these parts of ourselves and we bring them home, we're re-piecing ourselves, we're remembering, bringing all the members of self back to the body of Christ, the Christed one, the awakened one, the aware one is you who's brought all the pieces back and loved all the parts of yourself to where wholeness is easy. It doesn't mean those parts are going to go away. In fact, we learn to love the trauma-filled self that is going to always sit like a scar within the self. And it can feel a little shaky at first to do that because we want to look perfect like the magazines or whatever, or like how magazines used to look. But as we get comfortable with all of who we are, and this Aquarius energy is like, it's the collective, it's the wholeness. But Aquarius is also uniqueness. And it's very connected to your third chakra, which is your unique expression, your confident expression, your empowered self. So this is a journey collectively of the transformation of humanity. And we can choose whether it's empowering or more chaotic, right? All right, that is probably long enough for today's video. Thank you for tuning in. I hope to see you soon. I think we're going to go live on Midnight Flora on Tuesday, December 3rd this time, and also the weekends, Friday and Saturday, so make sure to catch me there. And otherwise, I'll see you back here for more chats, and we'll start the runes tomorrow or on the next video. I might be every other day on videos. We'll have to see how I do here. But I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much for being here. And if you would like a personal reading or do shadow work session, make sure you reach out to me via my email or website, which is posted below. Okay, much love.